These days, when you're walking the corridors of GSK, how long does it take before someone brings up the question of generative AI?
Oh, no time at all. They are all talking about generative AI in many different ways for many different reasons. So it's definitely a very important strategic initiative. We are doing a lot of work and everybody is involved. So yes, a lot of excitement.
So, when you first heard about this, what was your initial reaction? What did you think when this? And I'm thinking more when this tsunami of Gen AI conversation kicked off in the early part of this year. We know that LLMs have been around a while, and I know that you have been working in this world for some time. But what was your reaction when you saw everyone in the world suddenly talking about this?
I think that I was recognizing that the moment came. People finally were seeing results that were making them to think that the existing capabilities were mature enough to be able to be used out of the box, at least for some use cases, and integrated with production systems. And I was excited because, as you said, this was around for a long, long time, 5+ years, and only recently, during the last year, we are seeing finally big companies and organizations moving in the direction of thinking we need to do it. We need to do it. We cannot wait for that anymore. And I think it's a very positive thing. And it's great to have that kind of direction from the top. And therefore, right now is more for us trying to figure out what are the best use cases and where we can start to leverage those capabilities out of the box to generate value, and we are already doing that in a way that is comfortable for the people in the legal department, the people in the financial department for the cost that those kind of things are going to generate, and for everybody else that want to try the technology and streamline processes and become more productive.
Okay, so you've been working in this space for some years.
Mm-hmm.
What have you learned from past AI initiatives that could be applied when we're all rushing forward with our Gen AI plans?
Yes, it's the human element, the one that you can always apply everywhere. And when I say the human element is to take in consideration that many times people can be excited, but also can be scared. And if they get scared, it's more difficult to get whatever amazing capabilities you can adopt and or try to introduce and or develop inside a company, essentially working as they are supposed to work. So the human element is always applicable, any kind of activity, especially already with the classical AI, we were seeing that had to be approached in a way that was making the people feeling involved, co-participating in the development of the proof of concepts, minimal viable products, and essentially in future to run the systems. And in addition to that, I like also to involve people earlier and at many different levels of the organization because it creates a community.
Sure. So let me think of the pressure is on from probably all sides to learn about Gen AI and to try Gen AI. But can you recall a technology that has had a similar kind of demand from all directions come in an organization? Have you been around long enough to recall anything like that?
It's interesting that you are talking about demand. I think many people still do not understand what generative AI can or cannot do. For example, they're thinking that it's sentient or is creative. It's not creative at all. It's generative. That is the right word. Is spitting out more of what it already knows with some kind of tweaks and maybe some kind of probabilistic distributions.
Okay, so that all sounds good, but have you got any concerns about the challenges to your industry, your people, even your own role that Gen AI is bringing towards us?
My look, in pharma, people come to work because they want to help other people. So we are not in situations like cyber terrorists or things like that. What I think the thing can go wrong is the systems are not designed correctly, you will find yourself to face systems in future that have billions of agents, all interoperating and trying to assess, talking with each other, if they are working correctly, if what they are generating makes sense, and so on. So for me, really, the aspect that will become more important is on the design of those systems more than the use, because I'm sure that they will be used. And for that, it is important essentially that you create very big cross-functional teams. I don't think that only one person has the answers, right? And because the aspects are so multifaceted and of different kind of potential dynamics, is important that for other emerging technologies, essentially you have not only a few people at the table, but that you go across borders, you involve people from many different countries, so that whatever is done in a minimum number of ways that are standardized. So if something starts to deviate from normal behavior, there is a way to understand more easily why.
There's all sorts of parts of the pharma business that it's really risky to try out new stuff without being really nailed down. And this is a really new technology. But are you worried that competitors might be taking greater risks and may get ahead of you because they're less risk averse or less compliant in certain jurisdictions? I mean, is that a genuine concern for you?
No, it's not. So the regulations, it's true that are still not there. But the way that you shape a regulation is always through activities that are involved in the regulators and are educating the regulators and helping the regulators essentially to put the right company at the table and work together on the regulation. So see it in this way. If you are liable to not satisfy a regulation, organizations can simply get their license to operate revoked. So that is a really big risk. Nobody will ever take a risk to not know if his company or her company is compliant because they are using a new emerging technology. What you need to do usually is as you start to use this kind of new emerging technologies not in production, you involve regulators, so the regulators follow the whole process. And later in future, if you decide essentially to validate and qualify that kind of solution, the regulators have all the history and were involved in how that kind of solution was taking shape and had a say on what was important to consider to make it a qualified and validated solution for production. So no, I'm not worried about competitors. I also think that in future, probably the world will become more and more open as we progress, for the simple fact that it is impossible for a single companies to do all what we need to do due to the pace, due to the innovation technologies that we are seeing, to the complexity of those technologies. And therefore, I'm very happy and very positive about the future that there will be even greater breakthroughs with startups and or other companies to make this to work for everybody. That is my view.
I'm just wondering what the key learnings you have from your use, your learning of AI and generative AI, what you would advise other enterprise leaders to do in the face of this tsunami of generative AI. What action should they take now? What should they avoid doing? What should they double down on?
Right. So I'm very, let's say, cutting edge. I would challenge the foundational principles on how you create architectures of the models. I would do things in a very different way, but I know that can be difficult in big established organizations if those organizations have a lot of systems and processes that are essentially validated and qualified to allow them to operate. So my advice to other leaders of big organizations is just start very simple. And the most important thing is that you generate value quickly So it's more a job of organizing and aligning and prioritizing use cases, considering your existing capabilities at the moment, with the idea that using essentially some generative AI tools out of the box with the capability that you have in-house, you can show some kind of results that are going to allow you to get more funding, a bigger project, and snowball the whole set of initiatives. That is for big leaders of big organizations. For people that are in startups, the advice is different. The people that are in startup usually just finish a PhD or have very tech-savvy collaborators. For them, the challenge is more to try to figure out how to help other companies to reach product market fit. So in that kind of arena, they need to move quickly, but in a way different than big leaders. In that kind of arena, I would say to not go for the big whale and start instead of with medium and small size businesses and work out essentially a product market fit before scaling up and go with bigger clients.
Fausto Artico, thank you very much indeed.